Good morning. We are lights, and we shine. It's our nature. It's our birthright. And it is part of that shining that we're going to talk about today. How do we increase our shine? How do we celebrate our creative nature, which is one of the ways that we shine? And what does that have to do with compassion and loving kindness? Well, let's start with Rabbi Rami Shapiro. Creativity is the breaking down of all you know so that the new, the unknown, may emerge. And the experience of that breaking down is essential to loving kindness because it allows you to engage the moment and everyone and everything in it, fresh, without the baggage of the past. Without the baggage of the past. Which always brings me to the wise words of Erykah Badu. Bag lady, you gon' hurt your back, carrying all them bags like that. My other favorite line from that song, bag lady, you gon' miss your bus. You got too much stuff. You can't hurry up. And I want you to take the image of bag lady out of your head and now make that image collective. When we collectively have too much baggage, when we collectively can't move into the next moment because what we are carrying is too heavy as a society, as humanity itself. And when I think about the heaviness that comes along with being alive, and I think about the collective baggage, which Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, called race consciousness, the beliefs and the misperceptions that we have bought into together, the conditioning of our times, that we've inherited through our lineage, through the location we find ourselves in these times, in this life, in this great consciousness, and this great love. We all have different locations in it. And so the baggage we individually carry is sometimes unique and different than the baggage we collectively carry. And we carry both. And I am aware of the heaviness. I'm aware of the grief that many of us are feeling, whether we even know what we're feeling. I heard someone say, it was actually Kat Kim this last week, is this rage she's feeling. She can't tell if it's her rage or our rage. And I know even in my own experience of the profound grief in these times, it's hard to untangle my grief from your grief, but I'm feeling it. And I know when we were lighting the candle earlier, I had Ahmaud Arbery's mama on my mind. And all the mamas out there of black and brown children, of gay and trans children who carry the anxiety and the fear of simply letting our kids walk outside. And I've been reminded this week of the time when my kiddo was 12 and I let him go to the store on his bicycle for the first time. And we had the discussion, you got to wear your helmet, you got to use your turn signals, and, it was 3 blocks. And I watched him get on his bike, and as he was leaving our yard, he put his hoodie up. And the panic that rose in me, the terror that rose in me, I ran screaming from the house like a crazy person. Put your hood down, put your hood down. You can never go into a store with your hood up, ever. And having to explain to my 12-year-old in the front yard why I was screaming at him for having his hood up. Because he wouldn't be safe. Even though he was only 12, he wouldn't be perceived that way. And that is a location I find myself in as a mama. And that is a choice that I'm constantly having to make, because that is what is allowed when we own the power within us, is that we are at choice, even in the midst of heinous circumstance, of ridiculous collective baggage like racism and white supremacy. I still, in the midst of that, have a choice to make to free myself to the best of my ability of this collective baggage, of this insane misperceptions that many of us in this culture inherited. And I get to choose to meet each moment. And so rather than allow that fear to make me drag my kid back in the house and not ever let him go to the store alone, I had to breathe through that moment and reach for a deeper knowing that my child was a creative act, and that he was held in the arms of God, and he was the life of God expressing. And I had to let life unfold. And I had to get out of the way and meet that moment new, without the baggage, so that my child could experience the freedom of being a 12-year-old on his bicycle, going to the store for the first time. Not easy, but it was the choice I made. And it's always the choice we have to acknowledge the circumstances and the realities, to acknowledge the grief, to acknowledge what we are experiencing and feeling, and to meet the moment fresh. Rabbi Rami said, we have to break down all we know so that the new can emerge. And here's what I know for sure is we are standing in a moment, we are breathing in a moment, we are collectively sharing a moment that is saying break down. Break down so you can create anew. So that the creative power within each of us can meet this moment new. How do we do that? Well, one of the great foundational principles of science of mind, the teaching here at Albuquerque Center for Spiritual Living, is the metaphysical trinity, which is that the spirit, soul, and manifest are actually what make up the metaphysical trinity. The spirit of the universe permeates the soul of the universe, forever impregnating it with ideas. The soul of the universe is the holy womb of nature, producing forms which appear in the manifest universe. This is the creative process. And using that creative process free from our baggage is what allows something new to come forward. Which means we've got to allow the creative process to include the breaking down. You know, when I was turning 30, I was living in Spain in the epicenter of nightclub universe, and in the middle of a bar, someone said to me, what's up for you this year? What's 30 going to bring? And out of sort of nowhere, I said, I'm going to be a mama. I'm ready to be a mama. And that idea came fresh and new in me, not something I had planned on experiencing, the desire to be a mama. But it's just what came out. And in order for me to allow that to come into form, because mind you, on my 30th birthday, standing in a nightclub after singing a set, I didn't have a partner. I actually didn't have a home. I was living in the musician's apartment in Spain. I was working illegally in Spain and had no papers, but yet I was going to be a mama. I didn't know how, but I let that idea arise in me unhindered by the baggage of how or what might be in the way. Like, I had no idea who the daddy was going to be. And yet, it was the beginning of a fresh idea. And so, after freeing myself of whatever those previous 30 years had been, of what I thought about parenthood or mothering or having a baby, it allowed me then to move into the receptivity of that possibility. It allowed me to soulfully receive Spirit's idea, which means that we have to open ourselves. When we free ourselves of what might be in the way, we must also open ourselves to the newness, to the freshness. We must be willing to receive a new idea, a new possibility, something that was unknown to us before, like a world that is functioning outside of the limitations of institutional racism. That's a new idea here in this country. And yet, in order for that to come into being, we must open ourselves to what that could be, and then allow it to come into form. And one of the ways that we get to open ourselves is we get fresh with life. Yes, that process of creation means we begin to flirt with possibility. Suddenly in my life, I was like, he looks about 6.5 feet tall and broad shoulders, and he's smart. That could work. I began flirting with possibility and began to open to the possibility that had not occurred in my life before. And voila, I met Tenzin's dad in another country in circumstances I could not have planned. And this beautiful child came into being. And then, damn, having a child is a whole new invitation to creativity, breaking down everything I thought would be raising a child. And then came the letting go. I've discovered that mothering is majority letting go. Spending all this time realizing that this entirely self-contained, whole, perfect being is a creation of itself, and I get to now let him go and become more and more and more of what he is. And so now I'm back to the beginning of my creative process, where I have to get free again and remove all the ideas and conditioning around mothering. How do we get free? First, we must engage the world from not a fixed model rooted in the past, because that means we are living under limitation. Creativity is seeing and interacting with life without the prism of conditioning. So I want to ask you right now, what would life begin to look like when we remove the prism of the collective baggage? Put it in the comments feed. What would life begin to look like for you now if you remove the baggage of your own misperceptions, whether they are beliefs that you inherited, whether they are beliefs you took on from societal norms? When we begin to clean the lens of the crud, of the misperceptions and the misbeliefs, we begin to free ourselves of the limitations that come with those beliefs, so that we can meet the moment fresh. First, we must get free. First, we must get free of all that we've inherited. We must get honest with ourselves about what that conditioning is. We must get honest with ourselves from how we participate in that collective consciousness. What are we contributing in our own thoughts and choices and reactions? And the only way I know to allow that kind of clarity and allow that kind of self-honesty, compassionate self-honesty, is to have a practice that allows for us to go within and know our own minds, know our own hearts, know our own experiences. Mindfulness allows for awareness for the places in us where we are hanging on to old stories. Mindfulness allows us to grow our consciousness of what we actually believe and think. So mindfully attending to our own words, mindfully attending to our own thoughts. Because those very thoughts, those very beliefs, as we allow them to become more conscious, we can begin to recognize how we are contributing to the collective baggage that is slowing us down, that is killing mama's babies. It is what allows for the heinous violence. It is ignorance that allows for it. It is buy-in, conscious or unconscious, to untrue systems and structures. And it is a spiritual practice to begin to unpack what we actually believe. Begin to unpack those prejudices that are in our own thinking, in our own beliefs. It is a courageous act to compassionately go within. It is a courageous act to say, I am going to engage in a practice that allows me to have full access to my own being, so that I can participate consciously in the creative process, so I can be a place that births more love. So I can be a place that not only has the power to create in my own life, but to use the power that I have inherent in me as a divine being to create goodness in the life of God itself. Ernest Holmes said, "No greater good can come to you than to know that the power already within you is the power to live, the power to create. Not only to create for yourself, but for others. The power to do good, the power to heal, the power to prosper. You are to realize that the power within you is a divine authority. The power in you as a creative being, as a mother, as a birther, the power within you is given to you. You are made of it, and it is divinity. It is the authority of God itself. The only way, all the characteristics of the divine, the goodness, the love, the compassion, the kindness, the joy, the harmony, the connectedness, the only way that gets revealed in this planet is through me, through you. And so we must claim this divine authority that we each have. We must claim ourselves as mothers, whatever gender we are. We must claim ourselves as the divine idea We must claim ourselves as creation itself, as the manifest form of God. We are each part of the Trinity. We are the spiritual idea, we are the spiritual womb, and we are the creation itself. That is how big we each are. And each of us has the power within us, the authority right here and right now, to create the world anew. But first we must get free. We must be able to sit in stillness long enough to grow our capacity to be with life, to be with the collective grief, to be and have relationship with the authority that lives in us, with the divine power that is in us right now. And beyond meditation and beyond mindfulness, all of which are important, is the simple practice of stillness. How good are you at just being still with yourself? Being in pause and being with your entire experience, whatever it may be in any moment. Because our capacity to be still is what gives us the muscle to be responsive rather than reactive to life. And so being able to sit in stillness, so whether you have a spiritual practice or not, stillness is critical to kindness. Stillness is critical to creativity, to using creative principle to co-create our lives. Being able to be still is how we get free of being reactionary and being ran by circumstance. Being able to be still allows us to build the muscles so that we can move in the world and be at choice about who we're being. It is one of the greatest ways I know to get free of feeling controlled by life, by our feelings. One of the ways that we get to do that is that second part of the Trinity, right? The receptiveness, the opening. You have to make room for originality and an almost infinite diversity. Seeing the divine qualities in life as God sees things, and yet seeing them as unique and special unto themselves. Because when we do the practice of meditation and mindfulness and stillness, we begin to discover the unique creation that we are, the unique and incredibly individualized idea of the one. And when we recognize and experience that deeply in our own beings, it makes it impossible to not let that grow beyond our own skin and recognize that, oh, so is everybody else. And it is almost an infinite diversity, this creation we call life. And we can meet that wildly diverse creation fresh because we've let go of the baggage. We've let go of the misperceptions. We've let go of the conditioning so that we can meet that diversity fresh, which from that very freshness rises loving kindness. From that very freshness of putting down the baggage of the past, we are able to move lightly and open-heartedly and engage the moment in our divinity with authority and curiosity. One of the ways we do that is we must start to get comfortable in the unknown. As things begin to fall away and as things break down in the creative process, because we're getting free of them, we then have to build the muscles to be in the unknown. We get to become masterful flirters. Did you know flirting was a spiritual practice? Flirting with possibility, flirting and welcoming the unknown, the brand new, the fresh idea. Like, whoa, where did that come from? I've never thought that before. Or, wow, I have no idea what that person is doing or thinking. But if I can give myself the pause, the moment to breathe, I can choose to respond rather than react. How is it that we give ourselves more permission than maybe ever before to pause, to breathe, so that we can meet each moment fresh, and that we have the muscles and the capacity and the skills to be responders rather than just reactors? Do not think that your responses to each moment are automatic and instantaneous. They may be grounded in habit, but there is always a moment between an action and your reaction to it, in which to look and see if you are acting from conditioning or creativity. There is always an opportunity to choose. And it is up to us as spiritual beings to cultivate that space, to cultivate that access to the spaciousness that is in us, the absolute divine authority that knows how to be at choice, to take a beat so that we can respond rather than react. And it is always available, no matter how difficult, so that we can open-heartedly, divinely, wisely choose to be in this moment and this moment. So I ask you now, where in your life could you pause? Where could you take a breath so that you can access the wisdom that is in you before you act? Where are you being invited in your own life to freshen your view so that you can create something new, something more loving? Because kindness and compassion isn't about being nice. Nice is about wanting people to like me. Being nice is so that you will think better of me. Being nice is so that we won't have to have a hard conversation. Kindness and compassion is none of those things. It is courageous, it is honest, and it is free of conditioning and baggage. It is creative in that it allows you and I to engage in this moment together brand new, without whatever happened before, without whatever mean thing you said to me or I said to you. We meet this moment now new, committed to creating a life that is the revelation of truth and love. Because what shows up in the manifest form, we get to have the courage to look at through God eyes, through our divine authority eyes, and claim our part in it. Good, the bad, the ugly. Because when we continue the process of freeing ourselves of conditioning, of cleaning our lenses a little more, of opening ourselves to newness and unknown, and then looking at what appears and going, all right, that's some information. I like when I am co-creating in my life. I love that what I'm co-creating in my life is revealing more love and connectedness and openness. And I am becoming more aware and more able to widen my arms to include more of the incredible diversity of God. The almost infinite diversity of God. Because the manifestation, the form that we birth, starts all the way back in our own consciousness. And what we are freeing ourselves from. And we get to do that courageously and compassionately. We get to honestly look at what we are participating in creating in this life. We get to honestly look at the life that we are creating, the good that we are creating, the prosperity for ourselves and for others. It is a courageous act to go within and honestly look. It is a courageous act to show up to a moment naked and curious, saying, I don't know what's about to go down, but I'm going to trust that it's good. And it is a courageous act to look at the life we've created and celebrate it for all that it is and all that it isn't. And then go get free again. Go get fresh again. And go get godly again and again. I love you so much. Let's anchor this together in prayer. What I know for sure is that this divine authority is all there is. This absolute divine expression that has found itself right here and right now as this life we share together. I am wildly grateful for all the ways that Spirit shows up as each one of us. I am wildly grateful for all the light that we each shine, revealing more love, revealing the places that must break down, revealing what is out of alignment with what we know to be true, and revealing the truth itself as we each show up more and more conscious and aware and fully present to the creative powers that we are, and as we celebrate that in one another. God is good. We are good. It is what we are. And I know that we continue to mindfully, freely, and flirtatiously get free, get fresh, and get godly together. I let it be, and it's absolute beautiful blossoming and unfolding. And so it is.